Well, back again. Same place as we began previously. We've got 8 minutes to another sandstorm. Maybe we can find a buried lock chest at that point. And adventures on Dry Top continue. Now, one thing I never mentioned about the quicksand here as we go back to Prosperity and continue with our hunt for clues that we could have done before. You'll notice there's the barkeep up there. One thing I never mentioned is there is an achievement in here for eating a ton of damage in the quicksand. But the thing is, you kind of have to die for it, and I don't want to die for it. I think you have to die for it. I think warriors can vengeance. Like if we had T-Rex here, he could vengeance, he could stand up, and he could move along. But that was just another one of those little achievements I was reminded of a second ago because I did just recap and watch the old live stream that the devs did as this map came out, as this release arrived. They didn't really have too many anecdotes. I mean, they did have some. They reminded me of a few things. Number one, that you listen to a lot of new music on this map. It was actually composed by a guy who just basically stepped up to the plate. And he's going to be doing a lot of the music going forward. I actually think that Jeremy Soule obviously did an amazing job at Core and with the 2012 stuff. But their new things that they start making in-house are really decent. Especially when we start getting to some of the expansions. And that talent is still around. We'll still be doing stuff right up until the most recent patches. So it's pretty cool, really. I do like a lot of these songs. So anyway, yeah, let's go to the bar, see what this guy says. Hello again.
Yes.
You never told me that you mentioned you'd met a strange Sylvari. I guess I never asked, right? Were we on the track for a strange Sylvari before? We totally were. Alright, well, hey, sorry to bother you with this, but have you seen a strange Sylvari around here? What I'd be interested in is if I speak to other NPCs before this, if I get the same option. Unlikely, I guess. He says, sure, but she was gone long before. Wait, she? Hold on, we just dealt with Erin, a male. She was gone long before all this happened. She was a creepy one, though. Rolled into town with a huge load of crates and brought a place to hole up in. Wait, she? I'm looking for a male. In that case, I haven't seen him. This other one, though, she kept to herself, and we let her be. You should have seen her with those crazy red stalks growing out of her head. ... Oh, well, here you go. We all know that during Season 1, Scarlet was, like, ArenaNet's or the writers' like baby, and there was so much Scarlet stuff. I think a lot of people were frankly happy to see the back of her by the end of the season. And no, we are not done with Crazed Sylvari. We're not even done with Scarlet. So this is quite a revelation. I do enjoy this. We say, wait, really? Who'd know more about her then? Ask around if anyone's left to ask. Maybe someone in town actually tried talking to her. When there was still a town here, I mean. All right, thanks for the information. So, yeah, I actually really like this beat. You think that you've moved on from the Sylvari, like, especially the Scarlet stuff. And then, you know, she's been replaced by Erin, and we've dealt with Erin now. Why are we talking about Scarlet? And then, boom, Scarlet's here. Or was here? He says it was a long time ago. Now, let's just remember, Prosperity is like a bandit mining town. It would be a really good place for Kiara to have gone to all those years ago when she really wasn't known by many people where she'd been or what she'd been up to. You got to remember, this is a character that we already have a ton of backstory about. She stayed with the Norn, and she studied amongst the Asuras. She did pretty much everything you could imagine to make her the ultimate character with loads of background. And, well, the devs are going to add another layer to her history here. I don't know whether you guys really enjoy that, but I think it makes sense that she had a base of operations somewhere, and that sounds like what she had, right? I mean, he did just say, look, and we're going to speak to this guy again. Sorry there, the second I sit down to play with you guys, as always, I get a phone call. Alright, so, yeah, it's this guy. We spoke to him again already. We're not going to have to speak to any of the dead, I'm sure. Oh, gods, look what it did to him. That could have been me. What are those things? Well, we're trying to figure that out. You know of a female Sylvari who came here? I remember her. She came round here asking about rumors herself. She said she heard something about the mine and some magical underground river or something. She was looking for it. I told her that if we hit an underground river, we'd abandon the mine on the account of how they tend to flood everything without notice and miners drown. That didn't discourage her. So she's asking about underground rivers. We know that the Breachmaker was digging under Lion's Arch. We saw the cutscene with magical currents underground. Did she find it? The underground river? I don't think we're talking about a regular river here, are we, guys? No idea. All I know is she was looking for something. She had excavation equipment in her crates. Maybe she found it and it carried her away. I don't know. All right, well, thanks. Okay, so that's another little clue here. And as you remember before, we did go into that building. Well, she says, you've got that look in your eye. What do you need? Information on a Sylvari who lived here? I wouldn't say she lived here, just that she came and she went. So maybe it wasn't a base of operations. Moved equipment through here. She'd go into her room and wouldn't come out for days, sometimes weeks. Do you know who she was? Some engineer with obsession all over her face. Far as I know, she never said more than 3 words to anyone, and only then if she needed food or if she needed supplies. What was she doing here? No idea. There are others around who know more about her than I do. I kept my distance from her while she was around. Thanks very much. Sounds like she would be the first one we'd speak to, and then we move about. I guess we just go to everyone in town who's left.
Hey.
I just wanted directions to that mysterious Silvari's room. Ha! You're thinking of breaking in and looting her place? Not recommended. That one took personal security to a whole new level. Do you know who she was? She wasn't the friendly type. Despite those perky, red, pigtail flowers on her head, none of us figured she had anything worth the risk. Yeah, so excavation equipment, why would you want to mess with her? Well, we want to take a look. Where is it? It's right over there. Remember, I warned you. And you'll see that she actually points. It's kind of interesting. We say we, so am I talking on behalf of me and Bertolf here? Or are we kind of suggesting maybe that the whole crew is with us, hey? But so, yeah, we're going to walk over to this door, which is blatantly open. I just want you guys to imagine, again, that we're not in a destroyed town and that the door is shut, yeah? Which means that when we come into Prosperity's Mystery, we get to see the shut door again. Sadly, they never reverted the town. These days, they do have the tech to do stuff like that. You enter an instance, it goes back to the old one, just like we see over at Lion's Arch. But I guess they felt it wasn't worth all the client space to have 2 different versions of Dry Top on everyone's clients all at once, where there's one with vines, one without. Anyway, so who we got? Well, like we said, it's Scruffy, Bram, and Rox. Hold on, though. Why is there no Margie and Casimir here right now? Because we left them on the plateau ages ago, and then they were with us over there, and now they're gone again? Hey, anyway, whatever. Say, Rox, I know what you're thinking, because I'm thinking it too. This scary Silvari was Scarlet. Oh, yeah, obviously. Bram says, what are we waiting for? We're all sure it's Scarlet who was in here. Did you hear that char by the well? I did, about the pigtails. And seriously, we don't have a key. I say burst it down. I'll have Scruffy do it if you don't. It's got to be one of her lairs. One thing that really struck me listening to the devs talk about their own patch on this is Timey Mania time. All the devs are obsessed with Timey. It's kind of interesting. I think a lot of the community was not obsessed with Timey. We kind of thought of Guild Wars as this more mature, differently toned MMO that wasn't obsessed with following cute little children on their heroic adventures around the world. And then the devs presented this kid, and they loved her so much that you're going to feel through a lot of this season. Timey really steps up. She wasn't much of a character in Season 1, but she really gets emphasized a lot here. There's kind of 2 things at play. There's Timey herself, and then there's the devs talking all the time about Timey and making it feel like the game did more with Timey than it did in the end. And, you know, the 2 kind of mixed together. I think now, looking back in retrospect, I don't think there was anything too crazy they do with Timey here. It's just, you can really sense it. The devs just always want to talk about Timey and how cute and how amazing she is. And that really rubbed a lot of us the wrong way, I have to say. Anyway, it shouldn't really affect the game too much, but it is an interesting thought. Not so quick, let me talk to Rox and Bram. Caution killed the cat. Wrong, stay in your golem, the door may be trapped. Okay, the reason I did this dialogue weird was because I was scared advancing with any one of them would move it forwards, and I wanted to get all the dialogue. Looks like we have to advance with them all anyway. The game has me covered. So anyway, yeah, I heard about Scarlet, but we have to be careful. It could be trapped in there. You stand back, I'll break it down, says Bram. I say, no, not so fast. Well, what does Rox say? That little line there, what does Rox say? You got to think about it. That's a contextual little line that would only flare if I'd spoken to Timey first, but not Rox. And all of them probably have those, alternate branches for that last line. Feels really meaningless, right? But it's probably a pain to put in. I know what you're thinking, because I'm thinking it too. The scary Silvari was Scarlet, exactly, but are we sure? Who else could it be? But it all adds up. So what do you want to do about it? That door's got to be trapped. Well, we proceed with caution. So, we examine the door, and we know this is Scarlet. Booby traps, steam creatures, holograms, all the works, alright?
Stay by me, Timey.
Oh, look at that. Look, these 2 are very, very cool together. They're very big brotherly, little sisterly. The crackle of magic creates a steady hum around this door. It's locked, and the threat is clear. Decide how best to approach it. Well, we can knock it in. This becomes a bit of a thing, really, kicking in doors. This is going to be the first door we can kick in. But I think you get a choice. You can either damage it straight away, or there's an alternate way through. This set of blueprints appears to have been redrawn several times. A coffin like... Oh, wait, no, we're reading something inside there. There are multiple ways to get through. Timey, do you have a bomb or something?
Looks like the villagers were right. Scarlet was here.
My fur is crawling. Let's get out of here.
Their dialogue has updated as though we're inside, I have to say. You just read something about tentacles and yeah, the fell starts crawling. I guess I just kick it in. I swear there was another way. Maybe it's only certain professions that have other ways in.
Yeah. Let's go!
And well done. All right, so in we go. And what are we going to find? I wonder if their dialogue's already updated. Maybe Timmy's? I don't think so.
All clear.
I like Frostbite's little chirp there.
Can you tell? Is it really Scarlet's room? What?
Man, her inhibited movement as she travels around is really something to look at.
Ruffy, come, stand guard. Come on, Bram, get in here.
We still don't know too much about her affliction, by the way. Just that it's some kind of issue that causes her to be golem bound a lot. Right, so it's a very small, cramped room. It's not going to be aided by the fact we're a giant ass Norn, alright? So we'll just let everybody explore a bit. I think they'll talk, and then we can do something else in a second. I'm sure Marjorie and Casimir come here. Maybe they don't.
Looks like the villagers were right. Scarlet was here.
The dust in here is thick, and these plants are all but dead. She definitely hasn't been here in a long time. Look, look, look! This is a historical find!
Careful now. You'll pop a gasket.
She hasn't been here in a very long time. This, oh, and that great Glarg!
Language.
Sorry, I didn't know you spoke Etten.
What is this
What do you say we
place?
break open some of these crates? One good whack with my mace and...
No! Be careful. You could destroy something extremely valuable.
We should probably report this find to somebody. Ellen Keel, perhaps?
No, are you crazy? You can't tell anybody. They'd come and take it all away. I need time.
What do you need time for? You don't need to be digging in this old junk.
It is not junk.
Scarlet's dead. Let's let sleeping dragons lie.
I
Right
found
back to
something
him.
interesting over here. Come and see.
All right, wow. Jesus, there's so much I want to talk about. First of all, Tommy is pretty cute there. She's so kiddie. We definitely should
At
take...
least now we know where she got the inspiration for that weird hairdo.
We definitely should take this to Ellen Keel or something. Yeah, it's kind of funny. They have a little nice little thing. So this is the inspiration for her hair, is it? This plant that she's got on the side. So there's a ton to look at here. Also, I was just struck by a thought, right? You know how we're doing this prosperity investigation here today after chasing and killing Erin? But we were miraculously once again just with the three and not Marjorie and Kaz. She sneezed. Jesus rocks. I like this because the devs know we're going to spend ages in this room, so they just have these guys like make little grunt noises and stuff as though they're also experimenting in there. It's kind of cool. So I wonder whether the original plan for the patch from the devs was that all of this would happen now. We'd do the full experimentation. We'd go into the mine, immediately return, find out about Scarlet, come into this room, and then later we'd end with this and the boss fight and all that stuff. But for some reason, they changed it. They cut this up in half, and they swapped to this, which is why Casimir and Marjorie miraculously aren't here at the start of this instance, because the idea is maybe they were still at the plateau. That's my theory. That's what I'm going with. And maybe the devs felt it wasn't good because if they do all the Scarlet stuff first, people are going to get really confused when then they see Erin. I don't know, or maybe they just thought it was too much. I do think it works better finding out about the fact that Scarlet was here. So let's talk about how weird that is. It's a remote-ass area in the middle of nowhere amongst whoever, and she was excavating, looking in caves, interested in digging. And we do get a lot of her backstory now. I think the devs knew that even though the character is kind of dead now and moved on, there's a lot of extra stuff we could do with knowing about why she did what she did, because it's all still pretty much up in the air. And this is going to be a lot of clues in here. So I guess it depends what order do I want to do it in. Do I want to speak to Casimir first? It looks like there's not many interactables in the room just yet. So I think I should speak to Casimir.
My fur is crawling. Let's get out of here.
Yeah, we already heard that, Rock. So what does Marjorie say?
This feels like we've taken a step back in time.
Look at that. It's so interesting, isn't it? I feel like we're at the start of a grand adventure here, but already the characters are like nostalgic about previous times that they've spent together. That's how long this thing is.
Looks like the villagers were right. Scarlet was here.
Scruffy doesn't ever really speak. So, hey Kaz, what'd you find? She says, look at this book and then tell me what you think. All right, so there is a book we can now interact with. It says it's The Nature of Dragons by Ogden Stonehealer. Now, Ogden didn't have much to do in the core game. He had that bit in the Norn personal story. We met him a little bit with Priory's story. And then right at the end, he was investigating Ara. But he's a really brilliant character. He's one of the last remaining dwarves on the surface. A veritable treasure trove of information since he's 250 years old. He's not quite as ancient as the ancient dwarves that may have done battle with elder dragons, but he knows stuff. And he hasn't done much in the game yet. Well, guess what? As the Living World seasons go along, he will come up again and again. So here's one little thing. He wrote a book called The Nature of Dragons. He says, or should I say, The Dragons of Nature? Yes, dragons have long been thought to be as much a part of Tyria as the sun, the moon, the land, and the seas, okay? So they've drawn a very direct metaphor here between the idea that they are not just natural things, but images of natural things as well. So if we see images of natural things later in this room, think about that line maybe, and maybe we can draw some comparison to an elder dragon. Read more. No one, not even the dwarves, knew how long they've been here. The Jotun and the Norn both have lingering stories passed down through the generations about the last rise of the elder dragons. So which race is older, really? Which is more native? Jotun, Norn, Dwarf? They're all kind of mountainy feeling races, you know, ancient and old. Most scholars give these tales little credit, unfortunately, as so much time has passed. It was over 10,000 years ago that the dragons last returned to this slumber, as we know. And we've seen Ulfric, if anyone, has seen the utter collapse of the Jotun society. The very existence of these tales, however, indicates that the dragons have at least awakened twice in history. At least twice. Now, this is kind of cool. We hear a lot about... Oh, no, I guess, never mind. I guess right now is one awakening cycle, and then there was another one 10,000 years ago. That's 2. I thought they were hinting a little bit here at the idea of one 20,000 years ago, which... Rarely does Guild Wars lore go that far back. Very rarely do we ever even, like, get the slightest fleeting glimpse at the idea of a rising before the 10k ago rising. And I thought they were doing that there, but they're totally not. Hey, maybe one day, guys. Read more. Ancient documents found now in the Dermond Priory's collection, which is where he's stationed, obviously, reveal accounts passed down by other races, such as the powerful seers, and even the human gods themselves. I like this book because it feels very associated with Ara story, explorable mode stuff. Which, you know, had relationships to all of these ancient races, and Ogden was very clearly involved. I don't know whether that means he wrote the book super recently. I seriously doubt that, because this was a sealed-up old base of Scarlet's from at least 7 years ago, right? So we just don't know. Wait, was that 7 years ago, or was that some of the other stuff? Anyway, there you have it. Right, let's leave. What do you think, Casimir? She says, isn't this fascinating? We hear dragon stories all our lives, but they're usually fairy tales or stories intended to keep young children from misbehaving. I never thought of them as a part of nature. It's interesting because Guild Wars lore has this idea of demons, which are entities manifested from the mists. And in a weird way, and I don't think the story's ever leaned on this, but the idea of the demonic and demon creatures... If we believe elder dragons are truly natural, but not just natural, but like wholly conducive to what Tyria is. Like the most antithetical thing you can be is a demon. So the idea of demons v dragons is a cool story to me. But again, the game doesn't really lean on demons. Demons was more the realm of Guild Wars 1, I guess. They are ancient elder dragons after all. She says, if it's any indication, Scarlet's research into dragons started early. I wonder what it was that attracted her to studying them. Yeah, we're getting her early life here, really. Their power, perhaps? It seems to be a theme with her. Yeah, you're probably right. But she wanted knowledge too. Answers to life's biggest questions. She seemed to have recognized early on that dragons were a part of something more. So, if Scarlet had a revelation about dragons and something set her on the path about dragons, what was it? I mean, the Sylvari definitely believe and have that thing, like... The elder dragons appear, and then suddenly the Sylvari appear, and they have their wild hunts, and they go after dragons, and it's like, maybe they are there to get rid of dragons, and maybe Scarlet's just a part of all that? Or is this something more? Something universal, yes.
She must have been young when she was here. It looks like she was still a student.
I will have a more distinct conclusion later, but my preliminary assessment is that, yes, we're seeing remnants of her early years.
Look at this. How long ago would you say Scarlet was here? It looks like she was already studying ley lines.
Not surprising. She was well ahead of her peers. We Asura have been studying them for decades.
But you didn't know much about them.
They are elusive.
Is this what I think it is? It looks like ley lines.
Wait, what?
What do you think?
Oh, I thought she was overlapping the dialogue again. I was getting ready to cut the video there. You'd see one of those little jump cuts I often do, and it's just little moments like that where I'm like, has it bugged? Or maybe it's me that's malfunctioned. Anyway, so, yeah, she's talking about ley lines here. There was that funny moment in the core story, if you remember Bract saw, where the Asura were rating everyone's intelligence, and the closest race to their own intelligence they put were the Sylvari. So maybe it's not too surprising that the Sylvari can figure out some things that the Asura struggled with. We know that Scarlet studied under many tutors, and she was supposed to be like this genius savant, right? So you take what is supposed to be or is written as one of the most intelligent Sylvari of an already pretty smart race. They might be able to figure stuff out. Anyway, so Marjorie seems to think that she's seen evidence of ley lines. I'm wondering what that is. Is it the thing on the wall? Because, let's see, it's described as a hand-drawn image, and that it's more symbolic than literal. It shows the world as a machine with various moving parts, and the pale tree, a very natural phenomenon, and remember what we were thinking about natural phenomenons being linked to dragons, sits at its heart. So, what you guys might notice when you look at that, it doesn't really look much like the pale tree at all. I mean, maybe if you draw a horizontal line through the half of the page, and you look at just the top half, it might look a bit like a tree with its fronds coming out. And then there's, like, the underneath represents the roots of all those white lines, maybe. But what this really strikes resemblance to me of is a Guild Wars 1 thing. And I hate to kind of draw back to that game in a way that you guys won't be able to appreciate if you've only been watching my gameplay of the sequel here. But when you go to the Mists in the Realm of Torment in that original game, and you open the world map, it looks just like that. You're in the Mists. You're in, like, this weird metaphysical dimension. These weird hubs of reality connected by magic. And this is exactly how it looks. You know, like, one of those spheres would be an outpost, like the Gate of Madness on the bottom left, or the one on the left in the middle would be somewhere else. And there'd be some other dotted things around, but that's really how it felt. So, whatever this is, Casimir thinks it looks ley-liney. To me, it feels other-dimensionally, otherworldly, misty. I mean, maybe magic is the big unifying thing between all of these big, grand ideas. So, yeah. And obviously, here on this playthrough, I'm going into big detail about this. Other players could just skip through all this and not really look at all. But I will say that image on the wall, you're going to see something, that resemblance will recur as the season goes on. So try to remember, it is worth being excited about. Though crude, it's strangely beautiful, don't you agree? Do you think Scarlet made it? Maybe. It looks like it represents Tyria to Ulfric. Tyria, if you're a Sylvari, the pale tree's at its center. Didn't I hear that Scarlet strangled the pale tree in some vision she had? Well, she definitely had a love-hate relationship with the pale tree. Now, Marjorie knows, like, a pretty intimate thing about Scarlet there. I think a lot of us players learnt that from a lore blog post. Maybe Scarlet ranted about that at some point in Season 1, and I've just forgotten it. And we'll learn more about that blog post, and everything will be on the table, presented in-game by the end of this. Don't worry, it's not like that Zephyrite thing. She definitely had a love-hate relationship.
Do you think she was evil back then?
She was misunderstood.
She had to have always been evil. You don't suddenly turn evil overnight.
What about the branded? They did. They got corrupted.
Good point.
Maybe a really good point. I mean, that's the fear right now, right?
Hey, watch it with that tail. Oh, it's a steam minotaur!
Ow! Do you mind?
Inside voice, please, Tiny.
Timmy, you sound like a harpy.
Yeah, but did you see?
I see.
You're not even looking!
Bram, the typical Norn, he really doesn't care very much. Yeah, but Rock sneezing, for the love of God. I get the idea it's supposed to be really dusty in here and old, but the devs don't have, like, a visual way to do that, I suppose. So, you know, she's just coughing and sneezing. Let's imagine it's really dusty. There's some, like, really good volumetric fog or something around us. Do these guys have anything extra to say?
This feels like we've taken a step back in time.
No, they don't. They'll repeat that dialogue. That's pretty good, though. I like how it's voiced as well. All right, Bram, I know you're disinterested, but I have to say, it is quite exciting to see steam creatures. These are one of the biggest enigmas and weird things about the core game. Just these strange, like, genuinely mechanical, like, real-world looking, almost steampunky things. And where do they come from? What do they do? Well, Scarlet wasn't really the originator of them, but she studied them, and she learned their technology. She built into the Watch Knights last season. Tommy says, do you see? Do you see? It's a steam minotaur. I see. Our dialogue's pretty much the same as Bram's there, but I'm much more enthusiastic. A partially disassembled steam minotaur. I do think this probably goes a bit over Ulfric's head. The funny thing is, if you are playing an engineer here, if we had Bract in this room, you do get little bits of extra dialogue and observations you can make sometimes about the more technical matters. She says this steam creature may have been Scarlet's prototype. It has flaws. What do you mean flaws? Oh, I couldn't possibly explain it in terms you'd understand. You'll just have to trust me if you say so. See, if we're an engineer, I think we can have a bit of repartee there, maybe. Or just one little line, I suppose. But hey, there you go.
No one's ever going to be able to decipher Scarlet's chicken scratchings. What is all this Asuran googly mook anyway? These symbols and things make me nervous.
Those are alchemagical symbols. I'm not exactly sure what they mean either, but I'll figure it out with time.
Right, am I free roaming yet? There's a load I can do in here, and I just don't know whether I'm free roaming. Maybe we'll do Rox's observation now. What is it? It looks like this was her diary. Take a look and tell me what you think. Okay, straight up, get her diary. Probably more information that will overlap with the blog post, but we'll see. Dear diary, writing longhand is for the birds. I've discovered a device of Asuran origin that will allow me to record my journal from this point forwards. So it's going to be like a hologram. Remember when we were at the Twilight Arbor Return dungeon? There were holograms everywhere. Read on. Do not think that I'm ungrateful to you, but I must continue to evolve at every moment. The future awaits us all, and I plan to be amazing when it comes. So this is the last of her diary as she abandons it as a student. This will be my last entry as an ink-splattering student. Starting tomorrow, I'm a researcher, an engineer, and a visionary. I confess to a mixture of fear and excitement, so before her travels, perhaps? I believe I've found one of these mythical ley lines, and if I can study it, well, my understanding of Tyria's inner workings will increase in leaps and bounds. So underground magical currents, elusive, so deep down, or perhaps, you know, what's elusive about them? Just because they're really deep, or the fact they're magical makes them hard to pin down? I don't know. Read on. Who knows what the future will hold? Okay, so she's definitely looking for ley lines. That's more evidence than Marjorie's, I'll tell you that much. I've never been very magic-minded, and both Omad and Scarlet were crazy. So Omad is the insane Asura she met, again, in the blog post, and we know that things went bad when they were working together eventually, with Scarlet killing him. But Season 2 will go into more detail on this. To think that you could see the whole world in one moment, it's ridiculous. Perhaps it's true. The mind's a powerful tool. Yeah, and some people don't use theirs enough. Wishful thinking won't get you to the trough. This is interesting, because you can see the whole world. I mean, IRL, we can obviously go into orbit. That's not technology I think any of these people in this room, not even Timey or whatever, can conceive of. Or Guild Wars certainly never goes into it. But it is true. You could see the whole world. Well, half the world. Anyway.
I think it's time to go. We've got more important things to do.
You do, maybe, but I don't. This is the biggest day of my life. Look at all this Scarlet paraphernalia.
I agree with Bram.
You would. Look, you guys can go, but I'm not leaving. I need to document all this. I can use this to write the thesis that will make me famous.
I don't know.
She'll be okay. She's in a village. She's got a golem.
I guess it'll be okay. We'll be back for you later, Squeak. If you run into any trouble, find a Zephyrite. They can be trusted.
I will. Now stop worrying and let me get to work.
Let's get out of here, Bram. Between the dust and the weirdness, I'm done.
You be careful, kid. We'll be back later.
Yeah, she specifically mentions the dust there.
I'm ready. Let's go.
Timey, stay out of trouble. We'll be back soon.
Yeah, it's kind of cool to think of all the Zephyrite that are just outside, you know. I was going to say hanging around. I mean, they are in the middle of a disaster. Okay, so we can talk to Tom again. Can I now explore? Can I just click whatever I want? I think I can now. I think. Well, maybe not, actually, because there's stuff like... Okay, hold on. Well, if I see interact here. Okay, this is an official certificate that indicates Kiara has received honorary student status with the College of Dynamics. So remember, Dynamics isn't necessarily the most magically... Well, look, they're the Asura. They're all magically inclined, right? But Synergetics is really the kind of insane, crazy place where Scarlet eventually will flourish. But basically, she's an honorary student with Dynamics for now, and she can audit classes in a non-degree capacity. She's going to, like, smash that course and eventually move on to Synergetics. which, what was Bract? Was Bract dynamic statics? I can't actually remember. Anyway, so what else have we got? A hand-drawn image, more symbolic than literal, with the pale tree at its heart. You can, I think there might even be a lost coin up here. I'm not joking, guys, up in the rafters. Did they put them here? I mean, there's specifically with these Living World updates, there tends to be 2 categories of achievements. There's stuff that you get in the story, and then there's stuff that you get in the map. They're kind of separate. This set of blueprints, this is what we were looking at before. Now, this, again, is important. Take a look at this, right? We will come back to this. This set of blueprints appears to have been redrawn several times. A coffin-like device has tentacles coming off of it in all directions. Look at that. And there is very tiny script there. I'm sure if we had a really high-resolution version of that in the client, we could read it. But it's too small for us here. This handwritten notebook bears the stamp of Omad, Scarlet's last mentor. We can read on. The device works on the principle that the mind is connected to magic, and therefore, if properly opened, one should be able to grasp the entire eternal alchemy as a bird views the landscape far below. My Silvari assistant will try it next. I'm hopeful that she, with her innate connection to the Silvari dream, will be a better subject for those than those who have gone before. Now, this is kind of interesting. Scarlet wasn't the only one subjected to Omad's machine. It drove her crazy. She came out. She ended up killing him. And she seemed to have had an epiphany. Is that what set her on sail to dragons? Well, that seems to be the suggestion, right? But it's interesting here that he had other people go in the machine. What of them? What of their minds? Are they in tatters somewhere in the mists? I've grown rather fond of her and would hate to have her mind broken as well. I've tweaked and twiddled the settings as described below. I'm sure she'll be fine. This is interesting. Arrogant and overconfident and not really that caring, but there is some irony here. He had grown fond of her and he's about to make her an abomination that kills her. Pretty cool. Kills him, sorry. Pretty cool. That's the certificate. I was wondering where on earth it was that we were looking at. There's a rock over here. Sorry, not a rock, a crumpled piece of paper. This scrap of paper has handwriting on it. It says, note to self, explore the idea of a mobile waypoint. Can travel happen at my whim? So that's basically what she did. In fact, it was studying the steam creatures that she combined with the Surin technology to get like her own personal teleporter. I have to say, Kudu did beat her to the punch. That was The Nature of Dragons by Ogden, which Ulfric doesn't want to read. It just says, not now. That's the diary again, which apparently we can still read for some unknown reason. The steam creature, we don't get much information about. Alright, fine. Timey, I think that's it. I think we're good. Hang on a second. There's mention here of a miner who found the ley line hub that Scarlet was looking for. I wonder if she's still here. Maybe you should go see? She's a Norn named Tosca. There was a Norn here, guys, all these years ago. How cool is that? Adventurers, what are you going to go do? I'm staying here. Do you realize the historical significance of this find? Not to mention the salvage rights. I'll be writing papers, treatises, and dissertations on this until I'm 80. I don't get the thrill. Well, no. Of course you wouldn't, being you. But for an Asura, this is the find of a lifetime. I was fated to be the one who discovered it. It's interesting. All the characters seem to think I'm a bumbling idiot somehow, all of a sudden. Look, I do not agree. We are not a bumbling idiot. You were fated? Yes, I knew from the first moment I heard about her that Scarlet's fate and mine were intertwined, and now I shall be her biographer. I only wish I'd had a chance to speak with her. It's really interesting looking at this dialogue, guys, and like all the hints and stuff the devs drop, and also all the misdirections and stuff they drop. Like, is Timey's fate, this little Asura, really bound to Scarlet? She's already dead and gone, Timey. What do you think she was doing out here? My developing belief is that she found a ley line hub somewhere in this area. All the evidence points to it. I'm quite sure she was performing research at it and on it. It's so exciting. It does seem that way. The hub definitely wasn't in the mine at Prosperity, though. So what, deeper, even further out west?
Scruffy, I need my supplies.
So Scruffy holds the supplies.
Oh, look!
Now, this is a hidden thing, okay? I don't know. Will Timey interact with it? There is one big hidden thing in this instance. You can just do everything. You'll notice we have beaten it. We can move on now. But here's the funny thing. If we stick about with Timey, this now becomes interactable at the very end. Man, I want to keep looking at stuff. What's that like? Is that a vegetable back there? Maybe there are visual clues and hints in here that you can't interact with, like this plant that looks like a hair. I mean, rocks brought attention to it. But hey, anyway, yeah, so this is the last one. We can interact, and, well, you might recognize that from Season 1. It is one of those hologram platforms. And there she is.
Can it be? My goodness.
Hollow magic is amazing. I'll use it to record my life, my failures and my successes. Scholars of the future will study them. Are you out there, scholars?
I'm here, Scarlet. I'm here.
Wow, that's kind of weird, actually. She is. Now, if we keep interacting, I think she keeps having new dialogue.
My black market dredge contacts continue to prove
That's
useful.
how it
For a little
works.
gold, they sell me their scrap iron so I can build my steam minotaurs.
So she starts constructing them, as we know.
I've landed a lab assistant position with OMAD, an intelligent but overly gentle Asura. I should be able to wrap him round my little finger.
See, overly gentle. Man, I kind of feel bad for Omad here.
Today I'm 16 cycles old, and to celebrate, I've been testing my first steam portal with steam
Scarlet,
minotaurs.
what
The
happened
last
to you?
batch actually made it in one piece.
See, I don't know, man. It's like they're doing this thing where they just want, like, kids and teenagers and stuff in the story. That doesn't feel Guild Wars to me. I don't like reading or hearing about a savant
interesting.
16-year-old. It's just not up my alley, you know? I don't know. I feel like the Guild Wars... Maybe I speak for myself and just think I'm speaking for a larger community, so maybe I'll leave it there. Let's keep going.
I noted the tiniest hint of intelligence in a steam
Scruffy,
brain
log
today
entry.
as it studied one of the portals. Fascinating.
Great.
1 in 3 steam creatures is being destroyed by my portals. I must find a solution.
This really suggests she built all of them, but there is contradictory information to that. She didn't build all of them. They were around already.
I have not yet had the courage to travel through one of my portals myself.
Yes, I
I need to strengthen the
understand.
form resonator first. I may have created a new sentient being. My steam brains are mimicking my building techniques, designing their own version of the steam portal.
So she's definitely improved them.
It's thrilling. I finally moved beyond steam to aether, and I made my
Can
first
it
leap
be?
through a portal.
My goodness.
OMAD agrees that I'm ready for the mind-opening device. Tomorrow is the day. I saw it all. I saw the eternal alchemy.
Whoa. And all of a sudden, she's totally different.
I killed OMAD, my mentor. I am no one's lab rat.
That sounded like thunder in the background.
The ley line hub is real. I found it, and I'm making preparations to study it. I've purchased a room in
that's how
prosperity
it
with some of
works.
OMAD's gold. The steam brains have shown ingenuity. When threatened, they build steam minotaurs from whatever materials they can find. I've used a portal to send most of my steam creature prototypes into Lorna's Pass and Brisbane Wildlands. I no longer need them.
And this is where they start to appear before us. Oh, and is that the last one? I guess it was. Let's see if this next dialogue just loops.
Scarlet,
Hollow
what
magic is
happened to
amazing.
you?
I'll use it to record my life, my failures and my successes. Scholars of the future will study them. Are you out there, scholars?
So yeah, there you go.
Here,
They
Scarlet.
really seem to have taken the opportunity there to talk more about the Steam Minotaurs and, you know, accentuate Scarlet's involvement with them. Yeah, everything they're writing here really makes it sound like she is responsible for all of them, and
Interesting.
it's just all about her. But I swear that wasn't the full case. I swear that this is still a little bit of an enigma, that there was other things going on with Steam Minotaurs. There's actually a storyline in the personal story I never showed you on the series to do with the Asura, where you find an alternate dimension. Also has a lot to do with the Steam Minotaurs. But hey, there's no doubt that Kiara or Scarlet is responsible for a lot of the new activities from later on. But there you go. A lot of players missed that hologram, and I'm glad to be able to show it to you guys. So there you have it. This is her little base of operations with an assortment of things. Let's get back out into Dry Top. And with that revelation, I think we only have a little bit left to do before episode 1 is concluded, actually. So let's go for it. Oh, look, we're back here. There are more Mordrem around. Again, there'll be more to talk about with that name soon enough. So this variant is called a Thrasher. And can you see this big puddle of blood that I'm in? Like red ooze? Now, the red stuff will absorb my health and give it to the Thrasher. You see how it's a leeching Thrasher? So here, can you see Beartolf is standing in the blood? What Beartolf would do is give it health, heal it up massively. Not just itself, but its allies too. This is a type of enemy you really want to learn how to fight quite early. Because if you don't, you can end up just standing next to them in big events, get yourself instantly killed, and worse, stall the event forever because you'll never be able to take it out. So that's another variety. We're slowly dealing with them all here. And yeah, so we'll figure that out. Some kind of event with the Zephyrite going on in here now. This is what's so cool about Guild Wars with the dynamic event system. It's when you're doing a main story, you return to an area from a bit of backtracking, and all of a sudden the place has changed because there's a different event going on. It was a good moment. We missed it. It just ended, whatever it was. So, back to Tosca here. Now, this is the Norn. Hello. I didn't even recognize that you were a Norn before. I'm really sorry.
Won't you stay a while?
I guess you're a 7 years later kind of person, or you've been here for a long time. I'm looking for a miner named Tosca. I have questions about the Leyline Hub. You found her. That's what that strange Sylvari female called the pocket of magical energy I tapped when I was digging out in the waste beyond town. You don't want to go anywhere near that. See, look at this. You see that word female clunkily added in there? It's totally because the ordering of this patch was changed late in the day. You can feel it. They felt that they needed to add female because there was another version of this patch, I'm sure of it, where we didn't know who we were tracing, Erin or Scarlet. And, well, that's the problem, ArenaNet, when you get too obsessed with Sylvari. Or they have a bigger story to tell about Sylvari here. Hey, one or the other. You don't want to go anywhere near that. Maybe, but I'd still like to know the story. I was mining copper and broke through into an inner chamber in the rock. Suddenly, a bright light blinded us all. We didn't go any deeper. Too dangerous, but changed the direction of our digging. This really brings memories of mine to Lost. You told the Sylvari woman about this? Yes, and you should have seen her light up. It was as if I was Tix and Tox delivering a special toy just for her. This is kind of cool. Winter's Day just ended as I record these, so it's kind of cool to see them talking about that. Well, I say just ended, a few days ago. Where was this pocket of magical energy? Out west of town, but that tunnel caved in just after I told the Sylvari what we'd found. I always suspected she collapsed it and dug her own way out. You should find her and ask about it. And we just simply say, can't. She's dead. It was a long time ago. That's Prosperity's mystery. We get Amberite, Geodes, so just when we collect this, we'll automatically open this bag. I always think this icon looks a bit like rabbit ears or something, but it's a bag, it's tied up right. It's like a carrier bag. And then, obviously it's not a carrier bag, but you get what I mean with the two handles that are tied up at the top. And, yeah, we'll just get those geodes instantly. Another lockpick. We still haven't really had an opportunity. I think the sandstorm was going on the entire time we were in the house, which is kind of nice. But yeah, so that's it, really. That's episode 1. It just kind of ends here. You'd think it would end in the instance or with something a little bit bigger of a pop. I think originally they probably wanted it to end with that moment with the Master of Peace. But there you have it. So it says you've completed this Living World episode. You've unlocked additional achievements. You can now replay it from the Journal tab in your hero panel. And replaying it allows you to visit instances in any order to complete achievements. So this was not an available feature back at launch. When it came to my story, I can just click and read what Ulfric did, right? Doubt, my mentor and I located Gara. We got the Gara's feather and so on, right? We can just read it. When you get to Living World, it's better than Core in that if I now click this, I can click replay the episode. It won't take away everything I've done. But when I click it, we'll get the mail again from E, probably, possibly. I think we should. And we can just do the whole thing again if we like. More importantly, when I go to the map, you will see there are these little purple dots around. And these are for replaying. So I'll talk about how this all works. I'll talk about those achievements and everything in just a second. And in the next part, guys, we'll be straight on to episode 2, which, when in the original time, as this was all going on, the next episode came out 2 weeks later. So you had 14 days to play the story, replay it, do all the stuff out in the map, and then the next one came. And then you had 14 days, and then the next one, and so on. So that was the little break that we had to wait for. You, dear viewer, don't have to wait at all. You just have to click the next video. So I'll see you on that. Maybe on the playlist, and it'll do it automatically for the next one very soon. Cheers, guys. I'll see you there.